Good day, everyone. Our topic for today will be all about earthquakes and faults in module number 1. So this will be the start of our second grading period. In this lesson, we will be using models or illustrations to explain how movements along faults generate earthquakes. So we're just going to identify how does an earthquake form or how does an earthquake generate and what is the relationship of faults in the earthquakes. Before we proceed to the lesson, let me first read an article about a 5.3 magnitude quake hits Luzon, Philippines. So the 5.3 magnitude quake hits Luzon, Philippines. It is an earthquake with a magnitude of 5.3 jolted Luzon of the Philippines on Sunday morning. The U.S. Geological Survey said the epicenter with a depth of 86.86 km was initially determined to be at 14.0476 degrees north latitude and 120.525 degrees east longitude. The three widely felt earthquakes shook the Philippines today, but it's unclear if they triggered each other. The earthquake, which struck at 3:18 a.m. local time on Sunday, was centered in the sea about 31 kilometers or 20 miles northeast of Lubang Island or 89 kilometers or 55 miles west of Calamba and 65 kilometers or 41 miles southwest of Balanga. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, said the quake measured 5.5 and struck at a depth of 85 kilometers or 53 miles, which is relatively deep. There is no threat of tsunami, but aftershocks are likely, according to PHIVOLCS. Shaking from the earthquake was felt across the region, including in Manila and Quezon City, where some said the tremors were strong enough to wake them. There were no immediate reports of damage or casualties. The Philippines is on the so-called Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of fault lines circling the Pacific Basin, which are prone to frequent and large earthquakes. Volcanic eruptions also occur frequently in the region, according to Philippine Daily Inquirer or Asian News Network. So yun yung kwento ng 5.3 magnitude quake na tumama sa Luzon. Okay, ang Pilipinas kasi ay nasa Pacific Ring of Fire, kaya madalas nakakaramdam tayo ng lindol. Ano ba yung earthquake or what is an earthquake? An earthquake is caused by a sudden slip on a fault. The tectonic plates are always slowly moving but they get stuck at their edge due to friction. So yung earthquake, it is a sudden slip o yung biglang pagdulas or biglang paggalaw ng fault. Okay, yung mga tectonic plates natin, they are slowly moving. Kaya lang nagkakaroon ng earthquake kapag yung movement niya ay biglang malaki or malakas. When stress on the edge overcomes the friction, there is an earthquake that releases in the form of energy in waves that travel through the Earth's interior and crust that cause the shaking that we feel. So have you experienced an earthquake? So Yes, we usually experience earthquake kasi nga, ang Pilipinas ay nasa Pacific Ring of Fire in which yung ilalim natin ay maraming, kumbaga parang vulkan na reason kung bakit nagkakaroon ng earthquake din. At meron din tayo or nasa ilalim rin tayo ng fault na malaking fault na kung saan madalas ay yun yung reason ng paglindol. Ano yun yung fault? What is a fault? A fault is a fracture or zone of fractures between two blocks of rock. Faults allow the blocks to move relative to each other. So, fault is a fracture or crack, zone of fractures between two blocks or sa dalawang bato. This movement may occur rapidly in the form of an earthquake or may occur slowly in the form of creep. Faults may range in length from a few millimeters to thousands of kilometers. So, ang movement ng fault ay pwedeng dalawa. Yung in the form of an earthquake, so ibig sabihin may fault na gumalaw kapag may lumindol. Or also, it may occur slowly in the form of creep. So, kapag slowly, hindi na natin siya nararamdaman kasi nga, hindi naman ganun kalakas yung movement niya. Ang tawag naman doon ay creep. So, ang fault or faults may range in a few millimeters to thousands of kilometers. So, ang size ng fault ay pwedeng maging sobrang liit at pwede ring maging sobrang laki or thousands of kilometers. Pwedeng maging kasing laki ng Pilipinas. Most faults produce repeated displacements over geologic time. So you have here the figure 1. So as you can see, merong crack. Yun yung tinatawag natin na fault. Okay. So yung crack, ito yung crack, ayun yung fault, ito yung isang block, ito yung isang block. So sa gitna ng dalawang block, yung linya na yon or yung crack na yun, yun yung tinatawag natin na faults. Ang mga faults, gumagalaw yan over time. Ang pinagkaiba lang is yung earthquake malakas at yung natural movement ng fault dapat is dahan-dahan lang. How do faults produce quakes? Energy from Earth's interior makes the ground move. Friction holds the rocks together. Once the friction is overcome, the ground will move and the earthquake will occur. Earthquakes are caused when faults slip suddenly. So the reason why hindi gumagalaw ang dalawang faults is because of friction. Kapag yung friction ay nawala, that's the time that there will be a movement in the faults. Friction between the two sides of a fault keeps it from moving until the stress on the fault overcomes the friction. Then the fault slips and creates an earthquake. So kapag nawala na yung friction ng dalawang faults, dumudulas yung fault, gumagalaw, nagkakaroon ng slip or fault slips, nagkakaroon ng earthquake. Now, there are different types of faults. Faults are classified according to the movement of two blocks. There are 3 types of faults. Namely, so meron tayong tatlong types ng faults according to their movement. So let us identify. You have the normal fault, the reverse fault, and the strike-slip fault. Let's proceed first with the normal fault. In the normal fault, a deep slip fault in which the block above the fault has moved downward relative to the block below. This type of faulting occurs in response to extension. Occurs when the hanging wall moves down relative to the foot wall. Okay, para mas madaling maintindihan, ang faults ay merong dalawang parts. Yun yung tinatawag na foot wall at saka hanging wall. Sa normal fault, ang hanging wall yung bumababa. Okay? So, sa normal fault, bumaba ang hanging wall. So, naging mataas ngayon si foot wall. Kaya dito sa figure natin, mukhang mataas si foot wall kasi bumaba yung hanging wall. Next, we have the reverse fault. Ano naman ang reverse fault? A reverse fault is a deep slip fault in which the upper block above the fault plane moves up and over the lower block. This type of faulting is common in areas of compression. When the deep angle is shallow, a reverse fault is often described as a thrust fault. So another term for reverse fault is thrust fault. Sa reverse, kabaligtaran lang siya ng normal. Kung sa normal fault, bumaba ang hanging wall, sa reverse fault naman, tumaas ang hanging wall. Okay? So, yun yung pinagkaiba niya sa normal fault. Next, yung last one is the strike-slip fault. Ano naman ang strike-slip fault? Strike-slip fault is a fault on which the two blocks slide past one another. So, the San Andreas fault is an example of a right lateral fault. So, sa strike-slip fault, ang movement lang niya is from left to right. Walang umangat, walang bumaba. The only movement of the faults or the two blocks is from left to right. So, those are the three types of faults according to their movement. You have the normal, the reverse, and the strike-slip fault. Now, the strike-slip fault has also two types. You have the left lateral and the right lateral. So, ano yung pinagkaiba ng dalawa? Sa left lateral, if you were to stand on the fault and look along its length, this is the type of strike-slip fault where the left block moves toward you and the right block moves away. Kapag naman right lateral, so kabaligtaran lang siya ng left. If you were to stand on the fault and look along its length, this is the type of strike-slip fault where the right block moves toward you and the left block moves away. So, kabaligtaran lang siya ng left lateral. Now, there are different types of stress in the Earth's crust. So, meron tayong iba't ibang stress. Hindi yan yung stress ng emotions. Ang stress kasi, when we talk about stress in science, it is a movement or an energy. The Earth has three layers: the crust, the mantle, and the core. The Earth's crust is like the shell of an egg. It is the thinnest of the Earth's layer. So, yung crust, yung pinakamanipis sa layers ng Earth, doon nagkakaroon ng iba't ibang stress. The crust is broken into several parts known as the continental plates. When the plates are pulled or pushed together, stress occurs. So when yung mga tectonic or continental plates, kapag yan ay gumalaw, nagkakaroon ng stress. So ang ibig sabihin ng stress sa science ay movement. Okay? So yung crust, nahati siya into several parts. Yun yung tinatawag na natin ngayon na continental plates. So, yung mga stress or yung types of stresses na yon na nagpapagalaw dun sa continental plates ay nahahati sa apat. Yun yung compression, tension, shear, and the confining stress. So, yan yung mga ibig sabihin or yung iba't ibang types ng stress. Now, let's identify the difference of those four. First one is the compression stress. So, let's identify ano ba ang compression stress. From the word itself, compression, compress, it is a type of stress that occurs the rocks to push or squeeze against one another. It targets the center of the rock and can cause either horizontal or vertical orientation. In the horizontal compression stress, the crust can thicken or shorten. In the vertical compression naman, the crust can thin out or break off. The force of compression can push rocks together or cause the edges of each plate colliding to rise. Mountains are a result of high-impact compression. Stress caused when two plates collided. So, ang compression stress nga is yung pagdidikit ng mga faults. So, ang nangyayari kapag nagdidikit-dikit yung mga faults or crust na yon, nagkakaroon ng mga mountains. Next, we have the tension stress. Ang ibig sabihin ng tension stress? Ang tension stress is the opposite of compression. So, kung sa compression nagdidikit-dikit, kabaliktaran to ng tension stress. While compression forces the rocks and crust to collide and move together, tension forces the rocks to pull apart. Tension can happen in two ways. So, ang tension stress ay naghihiwalay or paghihiwalay ng crust. It can happen in two ways. Two separate plates can move farther away from each other, or the ends of one plate can move in different directions. Some scientists think tension stress caused the ancient massive continent Pangaea to break off into 7 continents we have today. So, some scientists believe that the tension stress is the reason why nagkaroon tayo ng 7 continents today. Kasi diba, according to some scientists, in the history before, there was a big continent which is known as the Pangaea. So, nagkaroon ng malakas na lindol. And the reason why ang tawag doon sa movement na yun is yung tension to stress kasi nga naghiwa-hiwala yung parts ng Pangaea into 7 continents. Next, we have the shear stress. Ito, shear stress. Ano naman ang ibig sabihin ng shear stress? When shear stress occurs, the force of the stress pushes some of the crust in different directions. When this happens, a large part of crust can break off, which makes the plate size smaller. Shear stress usually happens when two plates rub against each other as they move in opposite direction. The friction of shear stress at the edge of the plate can cause earthquake. So, yung shear stress is the rubbing of two blocks from each other. Rubbing, parang nagkikis-kisan. And the last one is the confining stress. Last one. Ano ibig sabihin ng confining stress? When stress is applied to all sides of the crust, confining stress occurs. When this happens, the crust compacts, which makes it look smaller. If the stress is too much for the crust to handle, the crust can fracture from the inside. This causes the crust weight to decrease, but the crust shape remains the same. Because this type of stress can hollow out the inside of the crust, confining stress can cause sinkholes in the earth. So, yung confining stress kasi sa loob siya nangyayari. So, nagkakaroon ng fracture sa loob. Hindi natin siya nakikita. Ang nangyayari, nagiging manipis yung ilalim. That's the reason why nagkakaroon ng mga sinkholes. So, those are the different types of stresses. Now, for your assignment, answer your assignment in your Google Classwork. And that ends our lesson for today. I hope you have a great day and goodbye.